بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء المرسلين صلوات الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد معدن الجود والكرم وعليه وصحبه أجمعين وبارك وسلم. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيبي يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رحمة للعالمين وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا شفيع المذنبين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. To all our viewers and listeners, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahman, his blessings be on you on this Mubarak day, the 26th of Ramadan, alhamdulillah ta'ala. Let's continue on our lesson that we started yesterday. Before we start with that, I just want to answer one question that came in. And the question was, we were doing about wajib, and we mentioned that Eid namaz is wajib. And I think it's a female that asked the question that what happens, they don't read, for example, Eid namaz or other things that are wajib. For example, the janaza, for example, and for al-kifayah, certain things that. So just to answer the question before we go, I forgot to mention basically. Well, we were just doing the concept of wajib and what it means really. If it is wajib on you, then if you omit it, then of course you become a sinner. There are certain things that are wajib on some people, and sometimes it's not wajib on others. For example, Eid namaz is not wajib, or Jummah for that matter, is not wajib on females, on women. If they read it, alhamdulillah ta'ala, is good, but it's not an obligation on them that they have to read the Eid namaz. And likewise, Jamaat, for example, they don't have to read namaz to Jamaat. They have to read at home. If they are in the vicinity of a masjid, and if they do read, alhamdulillah ta'ala, they're most welcome to join in the Jamaat, but it's not an obligation on them, and neither will they be sinning if they miss the Jamaat or they miss the Jummah, or in fact, it's recommended that they read at home. The best place for a woman to read her namaz is at home. And inshallah, we will be talking about that, inshallah, when we do the section on namaz, inshallah. So let's carry on from there. We did fard yesterday. We did wajib, the different types of fard, different types of wajib. We did also the sunnah mu'akkada and ghair mu'akkada. And then we went on to nafil or nawafil, the mustahabbats. And we mentioned that this is something that is, what do you call this? It is encouraged to do that. It is something that is recommended, and a person should do that as far as possible. But there is no sin in leaving it out. So that's the last thing we did yesterday. Nafil or mustahab. It's an optional act as such. And now we will carry on further from that. The next thing or term that we'll be using in fiqh is the term awla, which means it's a preferred way. And sometimes the word afdal, in Arabic afdal, in Urdu we say afzal, we turn the thought into a zay again. Afzal we say in Urdu, when there is an option to do a voluntary act in different ways, a voluntary act, a mustahab act, or nafil, and there's an option to do that in different ways. And of course, in this particular case, there may be an opinion that this way of doing it is better. A better way of doing, a preferred way of doing a mustahab, for example, or even maybe a fard act, whatever act it may be. But we have an option to do it in 2 or 3 different ways. And then the ulamas and the jurists will differ, we will in the opinion as to which is the best way or better way of doing it. And they will differ, jurists will differ as a matter of opinion really, in which is the best way to do a particular act. And there may not be consensus on that. Consensus that everyone doesn't agree that it must be done this way. We'll have difference of opinion. When a particular way is given preference by the ulama, it's called awla or afzal. It's better to do it in this particular manner. And of course, there will be undoubtedly flexibility in that. The method, for example, of doing khilal of the toes, for example. We do khilal of the toes, or doing miswak. how the actual miswak should be done. There are different ways, whether you start from the right, start from the top, or go to the bottom, whether it's cutting the nails, for example, which finger you should start from. And there are different opinions as to how is the best way to do that. And of course, in this matter, there will be difference of opinion. But when the ulama, I won't say consensus, but the majority of ulama may say that this is a better way of doing it, then that's called awla. Awla meaning a preferred way or afzal way of doing it. Of course, there is merit in doing it. The ruling of awla is that there is merit in doing it, yet no harm in leaving it out or choosing the alternative. If you do some other way, there's no harm in that. And perhaps because it's a matter of opinion, some say that it's better to do it this way, some say it's better to do it the other way. So there's no harm in doing it alternative way. And of course, there may be merit in doing it in a particular way that has been preferred by the ulama as such. That's awla. Then we come to another term, which is called mubah. Mubah is a term that is used when there is no merit or blame. There's no sin, there's no guna, there is no sawab also in performing a particular action, whether you do it or you don't do it. Whether you omit it or you do it, it's the same. There is no sawab for it, there's no guna, either to do it or to leave it out. And we must remember at this point that in Sharia, all actions initially are mubah. In the original state, every action is mubah. And then the Sharia then places them in their respective categories of whether it's farz or wajib or sunnah or even makruh or haram for that matter. So initially, to do something that where is nothing mentioned in the Quran or Hadith or Sunnah or anything for that matter is mubah. Yes, if there is something in the Sharia that tells you that you should prefer to do this way, or is wajib to do it this way, or it's farz, so Sharia will come and put it into different categories. Likewise, if a thing is not to be done, the Sharia will say that whether there's a reason or not, maybe you understand the reason or you don't really understand the reason, but when Rasulullah says it or the Quran says it, then it will fall in the category of either haram or makruh for that matter. But originally, everything. For example, I'll give you a simple example. We have Shari and Iftar, for example, these days, especially in the month of Ramadan. When we have Iftar or Shari, Iftar generally, we break our fast with khajur or water, which is a sunnah, is masnoon. That's mentioned in the kitabs that a person should try and break his fast with khajur, with dates, or if that's not available, then he has water. And this is something that's preferred, is sunnah, or you can call it mustahab, depending on the category. But for example, you're having, and these days we are fond of having our savories. Some of them will prefer to have bhajiyas or samosas or pies or what have you. There is no merit, there is no sawab, and there is no guna if you choose any one of those things. For example, you say, well, I got more sawab because I broke my fast with bhajiyas today as compared to samosas. There is no sawab there is no guna in that as well. But if you say that, yes, I broke my fast with the water, I broke my fast with khajur, there is merit in that because that is called masnoon. That means there is, we have a paper trail, we have a proof for that. But any other thing is mubah. There's no sawab in that, there's no guna in that as well. Of course, as long as we don't overeat. That's another thing as well. And as long as we don't leave out our namaz busy in our iftar, and then namaz goes, gets qaza and so on. So that's where all the positives were. The farz, the wajib, the sunnah, and the mustahabats or the nafil, we're all on one side, the positive basically, the do's. And then we have mubah that's right in the center, where it's neither, you get sawab for doing it, or you get sawab for leaving it out, or guna for leaving it out, or guna for doing it. So that's mubah is right in the center. And then you have on the other side, the negative side basically, where the don'ts come in. And at the top of the list, of course, is haram. And then we have makruh tahrimi, makruh tanzi, you can isa, and after right at the bottom, we have khilaf awla. Like how we had awla we had before, which means what we just done now, where it is preferred to do a thing. And of course, there will be a lot of difference of opinion as which is the best way of doing a certain action. And likewise, we have khilaf awla, or the opposite of awla. At times, the opposite of mustahab really. An action not against any sunnah, but while it is permissible to do, the manner in which it is done may not be the best, way of not doing this action. So it's called khilaf awla. Khilaf awla, that means not the best way of doing it or leaving it out. Then we have, of course, makruh. Makruh, the term that we come across quite often, and the plural of that is makruhat, a disliked action, an act that is not liked by the Sharia, that is not desirable to do and should be avoided. And there are two different categories of this: makruh tahrimi and makruh tanzihi. Makruh tanzihi is something that's mildly disliked, an act that is undesirable and better to avoid, yet no sin is incurred for doing it, even without an excuse. Comparable to living out the sunnah ghair mu'akkada. Opposite of sunnah ghair mu'akkada is makruh tanzihi, mildly disliked, but not to an extent where the person should be reprimanded for doing that as such. But of course, it's better to avoid it. It is desirable to not to do such an act, and because it is undesirable, it is mildly disliked, makruh tanzihi. And the ruling is that there is no harm or any chastisement for doing it. Although it's makruh, you mustn't take it lightly as such, although we say that, but it's something that it's preferred not to do it anyway. If you have above that, what we call isa'a, a bad action, or to do something wrong, an act that is between the two makruhats. That means one, you have makruh tanzihi, which is mildly disliked, and then we have makruh tahrimi, which is reprehensive and something that is prohibitively disliked. We have isa'a, or a sin, or something, a bad action to do something wrong, that's in between the two. So it is not mildly disliked, but it's also not prohibitively disliked. There is no strong hadith to go to say that this is something that you should abstain from. Between the two makruhats, that is to do something worse than mildly disliked, but less severe than prohibitively disliked, the makruh tahrimi. Hence, not sinful per se, but often associated with omitting and emphasize sunnah mu'akkada, once without an excuse. If you leave it out once without an excuse, it is wrong. It is a guna as such, but not to such an extent that once by you didn't have an excuse, but you left it out as sunnah mu'akkada, but not making a habit of it. We left it once. It's a guna. It's a isa. We call it isa or isaat in Urdu, isaat, and in Arabic isa. The ruling: committing isa or habitual omission, making a habit of living at the sunnah mu'akkada without an excuse, would entail sin and liable for punishment. That means if you do it continuously, it becomes a sin. But if you leave it out once in a while without an excuse also, then it is not sinful per se, but a person should not do that as such. Then you get the makruh tahrimi, which is serious kind of an offensive, you may call it, prohibitively disliked. That means there is a hadith mentioned about not doing this, and there's emphasis on that. An act that is prohibited by the Sharia and is undesirable to an extent that is wajib to abstain from it. It's wajib to abstain from it. It's very close to being haram, opposite of wajib. Wajib not to do it. So the ruling of it is that one who commits such an act is regarded as sinful, although the sin is less than that of a haram act. It's less than that of a haram act, but it's called makruh tahrimi. It's wajib to abstain from that. So it is sinful. It is sinful to do a makruh tahrimi act. Then of course we get to the last one, basically, which is called haram, and the plural of that is hurum or huramat, a forbidden act, something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has clearly forbidden and is not allowed to do it. It's haram. And we understand that because it's a term that we use quite frequently, although sometimes you've got to be careful. You must know that when a thing is not haram and you say it's haram, that also is wrong. And the meaning of haram is like how opposite of farz. A farz is an action that there is an explicit order in the Quran, a command not to do it. Likewise, a haram is that act is very explicit. It's clear in the Quran that don't do this. Like drinking of alcohol, is haram. Zina is haram. Gambling is haram. These are the things that fall. And if a person denies the hurmat of it, in other words, saying that it's permissible, you can do it, even if you don't do it, and he makes all kind of excuses to legalize it. Once you legalize a haram act, it's kufr. You become out of the fold of Islam, basically. It's very, very clearly in the Quran, don't do it, abstain from it, and you're not allowed to do it. If a person is allowed to do it, then the person has disobeyed the Quran, has not believed in the Quran as such. And doing it intentionally is a major sin and a transgression. If you do a haram act, if you commit a haram act, major sin, and you're going against the teachings of Islam and against the Sharia as such. To abstain from haram is farz and deserving of sawab. If you have the means, or maybe if you are tempted to do a haram, and then you hold yourself back, then there is sawab for not doing a haram act. So that, of course, you had the opportunity of doing it, or you are enticed towards doing it, and then you stop yourself from doing it. There is merit in it and sawab in it. To deny a haram, or to believe that it is permissible, is tantamount to kufr. That means a person can come out of the fold of Islam when you say that this haram act is permissible. You are allowed to do that. So you've got to be very careful in making halal things haram or haram things haram. And as mentioned in the hadith, that haram is very clear. Al-haramu bayyin, al-halalu bayyin. Halal and haram things are very clear in the Quran. So that we should be careful of saying something that's halal to do or permissible to do, and you make it haram. You have got to have very strong proof for that. That's something there's no doubt in it, very clear cut, to say that don't do it. And that only fall in the category of haram. If there is a slight doubt in it, or it's mentioned in the hadith, then it becomes under the strong hadiths, the makruh tahrimi, and very the hadiths that are not very authentic perhaps, or just one person narrating it, then becomes makruh tanzihi as such. So you've got to be careful when we talk what we mean. Sometimes the word haram, because not in the fiqh sense now, because especially when you go to, for example, you go to the Haram Sharif, and there are people speaking Arabic. Now they want to say that this is prohibited. You're not allowed to do it. Not necessarily haram as such. So they say haram because they know that you understand the meaning of haram. Every Muslim understands the meaning of haram. Means is a prohibition. Don't do it. So instead of saying, because they use the Arabic words, they speak to Arabic, you may not understand. They say haram, haram, haram hada, haram hada. So they actually mean that it is prohibited, not necessarily haram as such as in the fiqh term. The word halal, we understand that which is permissible to eat or drink or otherwise. The word jaiz, we use the word jaiz, it means that which is permissible as well. I think we have a problem. The video is not showing. Are we on it now? Maulana? Okay, all right. We're back on live now, alhamdulillah. Halal, that which is permissible to eat or drink, or generally permissible, that means it is jaiz. Another word that we use for that is jaiz. Jaiz meaning it is permissible, and we use that a lot in the Urdu term as such. Sawab meaning basically the reward of that. The reward by Allah, and He Himself determines sawab. We can't determine sawab as such. We can't determine how much of reward a person gets. And we use the word quite often. We use the word sawab quite often. But there's one thing about sawab is that no one can determine whether we got sawab for it or not. That is the explicit for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to determine. He determines and He places on. The angels will record it. But the actual ajr of that and the reward of whatever we do, sawab. So we can't determine and we can't place a figure on that. And sometimes we come across a lot in the hadith that if you do this, you get so much of sawab, you do this, so much of sawab. We can't determine really what is the reward of that and how we will be rewarded for that. Even regarding Rosa, for example, where it's mentioned that Rosa is for me and I am the reward, or I will give the reward for that. So we can't measure sawab. When we read Quran Sharif also, we mention the hadith that for every letter of the Quran that you read, you will get the sawab of 10 good actions. Now, what kind of actions? That's not mentioned in the hadith. And 10 sawab, 10 sawab of 10 good actions. What that entails, Allah Himself knows. So we just do it for the sake of sawab or for the sake of reward, and that we will see on the day of judgment, inshallah. But what is the meaning of sawab? So we have done that already, and as we go along, inshallah, if you come across any other terms, we will discuss as we're going along. Coming on to the lessons itself, the first lesson that we're going to tackle basically, and we're going to do is tahara. Tahara is something that we all understand. The first thing that we learn when we go to madrasa basically is about tahara. I wonder if you can still see me. I don't know much. All right, I'll be back live, I think, inshallah. So the first thing that we're going to do is tahara. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. Truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who turn unto Him in repentance and love those who purify themselves. So, and we understand that that tahara is very, very important in Islam specifically. In fact, every religion teaches us to be clean as such. And Nabi Pak himself personally was very concerned about our well-being. He gave a lot of importance to cleanliness and said that it's a part of iman, of faith. And in order to be sure that his followers will be well groomed and clean, Nabi Pak provided us with clear guidelines so that we can be healthy. And I think that we must remember first, of course, is that our body is an amana. It's an amana. It's a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must take care of it, but not letting any harm come to it. We take care of our bodies by keeping it clean and free from diseases. And we know that germs breed where there is dirt, and if you're not clean, we can get ill and fall sick. And as you know, especially now, especially with all this virus that is around, the emphasis on keeping yourself clean, washing your hands, and washing your hands again and again, and all that kind of things. And we've been taught this 1400 years ago, to keep ourselves clean, making wudu all the time. And I think the world is coming to know, and amongst other things with this coronavirus, that Islam is a solution basically to a lot of the world's problem. And Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that cleanliness is a part of iman. It's part of your iman, part of your faith. As tuhuru shatrul iman. And our purpose in this world is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are here to worship Him, and we are asked to assure that all our actions begin with the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first thing we are asked to do is get our intentions clear first, that it is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate goal in our lives. And Allah reminds us in the Quran, cleanliness is pleasing to Him. Allah loves those. Allah loves those who keep themselves clean. So just by keeping ourselves clean, we are attaining part of our objective, that is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Himself gets very happy when we are clean. And we made the dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to attain such a state of purity which will enable us to please Him. Ameen summa ameen. Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, the Prophet Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the miswak cleanses and purifies the mouth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets happy with us. It pleases the Lord. Just 1 minute. I just want to see if this. I'll take me back online. Sometimes what happens, we get disturbed by a call coming through, and I'm not sure whether they be online or not. So we are talking about the hadith that Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, and narrated by Hadhrat Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha. She said that miswak cleanses and purifies the mouth, and it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It pleases Allah. So we are doing things that cleansing ourselves on one hand, at the same time we are pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a person cannot be clean if he allows his surroundings to be dirty. So therefore, a Muslim will keep his room and his house and surroundings clean. And it's mentioned in the hadith that Nabi Pak said that people will be punished in the graves because they did not keep themselves clean from urine. As mentioned, Nabi Pak was passing by, traveling, and he stopped on the side of a road when the horse or whatever he was traveling on, it reared up and got frightened. Nabi Pak jumped off. It was very unusual for an animal to behave in that manner, especially if Nabi Pak is riding it. So he said to the Sahabas, do you know why this horse got frightened? He said, right next to our path where we were traveling, there are two graves. And these two graves here, and the one person is being punished, and the screams of it, the screams that are being being heard by even the animals. It's only Allah has put a parda between the ears of the insan, human beings, and jinns, that they can't hear the screams that a person is making while he is being punished in the grave. And he said the one person was being punished because he used to not protect himself from splashes of urine. Some say that he never used to make istinja and that he cleaned himself out going to the toilet. The others say that no, he was a shepherd, and he had camels or goats or what have you, and he never protected himself from the urine of these animals and never worried about keeping himself clean. So Nabi after that took a branch, cut it in from a tree, cut it lengthwise down the middle, and he planted one in one grave and the other in the other grave, and he said, as long as this stays green, the azab will be lessened in the grave of this person, because these things are the tasbih of that branch, basically the green branch, will benefit the person in the grave. So having said that, and there's so many other things that we can learn from this hadith, but Nabi Pak said that the person is getting punished in the grave because of this. He said, be careful of urine splashes, for verily most cases of punishment in the grave are because of it, in the hadith mentioned. So inshallah we will stop there, and we will do inshallah tomorrow. We will carry on from next week inshallah, Monday, if Eid is not on Monday. We are hoping Eid will be on Sunday inshallah, but if Eid is on a Sunday, then Monday we will continue with our classes inshallah, hopefully at the same time, but we keep posting inshallah. You will see our get onto our website, see our page inshallah. More of that will be there inshallah. Inshallah, we will hope to see you next week inshallah. So if you have any questions, please post it on our web page inshallah, and we'll come back to you inshallah. Jazakumullah khair wa akhir dawana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.